I need to start with something very clear. I'm not using real names. I am not naming the exact location. I'm not revealing anything that could put me or my family at risk. If you know Sinaloa, you already understand why. This happened on January 6th of the last year. I was 19 years old. My father hauls cattle for a living. Sometimes I go with him and help with the loading, make some money. That morning, he woke me at 4 a.m. He needed an extra hand because the job was big. Load cattle near home, deliver it, then drive to Sinaloa for a second haul to take to another state. I'd been to Sinaloa with him before, multiple times. You get used to certain things when you cross into that state. You see convoys, white vans with no plates, tinted windows, moving fast, armed men in trucks. You don't look too long. You keep driving. You mind your business. But you can't always control what happens when someone else's business decides you're part of it. We left that morning, my father and my uncle and me. We stopped at a gas station to meet a second trailer that would follow us because the ranch we were going to had a lot of cattle. The trailer was late, flat tire. We waited an hour and a half. When we finally left, a guy got into the cab with the other trucker, someone local who knew the roads, who was supposed to guide us to the ranch. We crossed into Sinaloa. The white van passed us going the other direction. No plates. Tinted black, full speed. We looked, we said nothing, we kept driving. 20 minutes later, we arrived. The ranch was large, near a place called El Gualamo outside Villa Union. The guy riding with the trucker got out to open the gate. The trailer went in first. We followed. I was recording on my phone. I thought it would be cool, a big ranch, my dad's truck pulling in behind the trailer. Stupid kid shit. And then my uncle said, armed men coming toward us. I looked up, there were 5 of them, maybe 6, walking fast. K-47s raced, some had balaclavas, some didn't bother, they wore tactical vests, boots, the kind of gear you see in news footage after a shootout. I dropped my phone into my lap immediately. I thought they were going to shoot me for filming. They surrounded the truck. One of them yanked the door open and shoved the barrel in my father's face. Wallets, phones, everything. Now. We handed it over. No questions. No hesitation. They pulled us out. Told us to walk toward the main building. I could barely feel my legs. There were more of them inside. 3 other men were already face down on the ground. They'd arrived earlier to haul machinery. Wrong place, wrong time. Same as us. 2 other guys, the ones who work security at the ranch, were on their knees. One of them was being beaten, blood running from his nose, his mouth. A sicario standing over him, hitting him with the stock of his rifle over and over. The boss was there, blonde, stocky, mid-30s, maybe older, blind in one eye, missing a finger on his left hand. He kicked the guy doing the beating and told him to stop. Then he turned to us. Who do you work for? My father told him the truth. We were hired to haul cattle. A job. That's it. We didn't know anything about the ranch, about what had happened here, about whatever this was. The boss laughed. This ranch, he said, belongs to the Cartel del Chapo Guzman. It's been seized. And the man who sent you here, he's a dead man. Which means you're all dead too. I want to stop here for a second. Because I need you to understand something about fear. You think you know what it feels like. You think you've been scared before. A car accident, a close call, a bad moment. But there is a difference between fear and the certainty of death. There is a difference between panic and the cold realization that nothing you do will matter. I was 19 years old. I said goodbye to my family in my head. I said goodbye to my girlfriend. I accepted it, not because I wanted to, because at a certain point there your brain stops fighting and starts preparing. But then the boss said something else. You're going to help me move some things. If you do it right, you go home. If you don't, or if you try anything stupid, I'll kill you myself. 2 of them grabbed me and my uncle, put us in the back of my father's truck, put a sicario in the front seat with my dad, AK, across his lap. 3 other trucks formed a convoy around us. My father drove fast. The trailer still hooked to the back. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't ask. I just watched the road get narrower, more remote, more mountains, less civilization. We stopped once. A white van pulled up beside us. I made the mistake of looking. In the back of that van, through the window, I saw two men, tied plastic bags over their heads, still moving. I turned back around. I didn't say anything. My uncle saw my face. He didn't ask. We kept driving. We stopped at a dirt sports field next to the highway. My father, my uncle, and I were told to get in the cab together. The sicario stayed with us, gun on his lap, asking my father the same questions the boss had asked. Who sent you? Who do you work for? Why are you really here? My father gave the same answers. The sicario hit him lightly across the shoulder with the barrel. Do you have a problem? Do you have a fucking problem? We said nothing. He changed the batteries in his radio. For a moment, maybe 3 seconds, the gun was resting against the door. I thought about it. My uncle thought about it. We made eye contact. We didn't move. It wasn't worth it. 3 trucks arrived, loaded with tractors, trailers, machinery. The same guys who'd been face down at the ranch. They told us to follow a red pickup truck. We did. The convoy followed us. On the radio, I heard them talking. The other trailers, the one that had come with us, hadn't been escorted. They were looking for it. We passed through a small town at full speed, then onto dirt roads, agricultural fields, cattle land, empty. We stopped. The boss was there. He told us to unload everything. Fast. Then one of the sicarios shouted, "Monsters incoming!" Soldiers. They started snorting cocaine right there in front of us. One of them turned and offered it to me. Want some? Calm your nerves. I shook my head. They told us to finish unloading, then get the fuck out. The boss said he had our IDs. He knew where we lived. If we talked, we were dead. If we didn't leave the red truck blocking the road like he told us, we were dead. Then they left. We unloaded the machinery with the other truckers as fast as we could. And then we drove. Yeah, the soldiers stopped us on half a mile up the road, rifles raised. They told us to approach slowly. The commander asked my father, "Where are they?" My father lied. He said he didn't know what they were talking about. We were just hauling cattle. I got lost. The commander looked at him for a long time. Then he let us go. We drove to Villa Union, found the other trucker who'd come with us. The guy who'd been riding with him had jumped off the trailer and run. We drove home without our phones, without our wallets, without money, without diesel, but alive. We found out later that the guy who jumped, the one who knew the roads, had called the ranch owner before throwing his phone away. The ranch owner sent the soldiers. That's the only reason they were there. That's the only reason we made it out. I got my phone back. 2 days later, I tracked it on my laptop. Once I got home, it was at the prosecutor's office in Sinaloa. They found it in one of the abandoned trucks. My mother cried when I told her. My girlfriend didn't speak for a long time when I called. I still don't know why we lived, and those other men didn't. I don't know why the boss decided we were useful instead of expendable. I don't know why the soldiers believed my father's lie. I just know that I was 19 years old and I spent 6 hours believing I was going to die in Sinaloa. And I was right to believe it because in Sinaloa, on a Tuesday morning in January, on a cattle ranch near El Gualamo, men like that boss decide who lives and who dies. And the only reason I'm telling you this story is because, for reasons I will never fully understand, he decided we could live. I need to give you some context first, so you understand why this happened. I'm not involved in anything. I'm a geek. I love science fiction, video games, board games with friends on weekends. At the time, I worked as a design engineer in a factory, lower middle class life in Mexico, nothing flashy, nothing that would attract attention. But my sister has a high-ranking position in public security, government work, the kind where you make decisions about cartel operations, about arrests, about where resources go, the kind of job that puts targets on people, not just on her, on everyone around her. That's why they came for me. This happened on a Tuesday morning, 1 year and 2 days ago. But it didn't start that Tuesday. It started weeks before. I've been feeling it for a while. That sensation that you're being watched, that a car stays behind you a little too long, that the same vehicle shows up on your street 2 nights in a row. I kept telling my family, my parents, my sister, I'd say, someone's following me. I'm not imagining this. They tell me I was being paranoid, that I was overreacting, that my sister's job was making me anxious, and I was seeing things that weren't there, but I wasn't. 3 weeks before it happened, I saw the same white pickup truck parked near my house on 3 separate occasions, different times of day, always within 2 blocks, always with someone sitting in the driver's seat doing nothing. 2 weeks before, I was coming home from a friend's house around 11 at night. A black SUV with tinted windows followed me for 15 minutes. Every turn I took, it took. When I pulled into a gas station to see what it would do, it drove past slowly, then circled back and waited at the exit. I sat in that gas station for 20 minutes. Eventually it left. I told my sister. She said she'd look into it, but I don't think she believed me. 1 week before it happened, I was leaving work late. Around 9 p.m., I saw a man standing across the street from the factory entrance, just standing there watching. When I got in my car, he pulled out a phone and made a call. I drove home a different route that night. And then came Tuesday. I was on my way to work. My shift started at 6 a.m., so I left the house at 5:25 like I always did. That morning, I was driving my dad's SUV instead of my usual sedan. My parents were on vacation in Cancun, and I was supposed to pick them up from the airport after work. The sun wasn't up yet. The streets were still dark, quiet. When I pulled out of my driveway, I saw another SUV parked about a block down. Dark color, maybe black or navy, tinted windows, engine running, a guy in a baseball cap sitting in the driver's seat. I slowed down as I passed, looked directly at him. He looked down immediately, covered his face with his hand. My gut told me something was wrong, but my family's voice was in my head. You're being paranoid. You're overreacting. So I kept driving. To get to work, I have to go through one of the roughest neighborhoods in the city, poorly lit, narrow streets, high crime, the kind of place where you don't stop at the red lights if you can help it. It's a 2-lane street, one-way traffic. I was in the right lane, going maybe 35 miles per hour. A black Jeep Cherokee came speeding up the left lane and blew past me, fast, aggressive. It cut in front of me and kept going. At the end of the street, I needed to turn right to get to the factory. The Cherokee stopped, dead stop, right lane, directly in front of me, turn signal on. Blinking left. I thought it was weird. If you're turning left, why are you in the right lane? But I didn't want to be an asshole and honk. I figured maybe the driver was confused, maybe lost. I gave them a few seconds to figure it out. That's when I heard the tires. A Ford Explorer came screaming up the left lane from behind me and slammed to a stop right beside my driver's side door. 4 men got out. 3 had guns, K-47 style rifles. 1 had a wooden baseball bat. It happened in seconds, maybe 3, maybe 4. The guy with the bat ran to my window and swung. The glass exploded inward. Shards everywhere, in my lap, in my hair, across my face. He swung again and hit me in the side of the head. I felt the impact before I felt the pain. Another guy shoved a gun through the broken window. The barrel was inches from my face. He pressed it to my temple. He said, "Esto es de verdad, pendejo. Bájate del carro." This is real, asshole. Get out of the car. I could see the other 2 moving toward the passenger side. One of them had his rifle aimed at the windshield. The other was trying the door handle. I need you to understand something. In that moment, I knew this wasn't a carjacking. If they wanted the SUV, they would have just taken it, pulled me out, beaten me, driven off. That's how carjackings work. But there were 4 of them. 2 vehicles blocking me in, coordinated, planned. And I felt someone following me for weeks. I'd seen the guy outside my house that morning. I knew what my sister did for a living. They weren't there to steal a car. They were there to take me. And if they took me, I was dead. Maybe not immediately. Probably not immediately. But eventually. Torture first, questions, then death. That's how it works with the cartels. That's what they do to the families of people who get in their way. So I made a decision. I didn't think about it. There wasn't time to think. My body just moved. I stepped on the gas. The SUV lurched forward. I smashed into the back of the Cherokee. Metal crunched. The guy with the bat stumbled backward. I yanked the wheel left and floored it. The SUV shot through the gap between the Cherokee and the Explorer. I felt the impact on both sides. Scraping, grinding. I heard someone scream, and then I felt the bump. I ran over one of them. I don't know which one. I didn't look back. I was doing 60, 70 miles per hour down a residential street. The engine was roaring. I was laying on the horn, holding it down, trying to make as much noise as possible so people would wake up, look outside, call someone. I could see headlights in my rearview mirror. They were following me. My plan was to get to my workplace. It was maybe 2 miles away. It had a guarded gate, private security. I could get inside, lock the doors, call my sister. She could send the police, but my hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the wheel. Blood was running down the side of my face from where the bat had hit me. Glass was everywhere. I saw the entrance to the factory ahead on the right, and I missed it. I was going too fast. I tried to brake and turn at the same time. The SUV skidded. I lost control. I crashed into a concrete corner post at the intersection. The airbag didn't deploy. The front end crumpled. The engine stalled. For a moment, I just sat there. My chest was heaving. My heart felt like it was going to explode out of my rib cage. Everything went silent. Or maybe I just couldn't hear anything over the ringing in my ears. I looked in the rearview mirror. The street behind me was empty. Just the orange glow of street lights in the early morning. No headlights. No vehicles. They'd stopped chasing me. I turned the key. The engine sputtered, then caught. The SUV was still running. I reversed, straightened out, and drove the last 2 blocks to the factory. I pulled up to the gate and started screaming at the security guards to open it. They saw the blood. They saw the smashed window. They opened the gate. I parked right at the entrance, got out, and called my sister. She answered on the second ring. I told her what happened. She told me to stay where I was. She said she was sending people. Then I went inside and found my boss. I told him I'd been in an accident. He took one look at me and told me to sit down. I went to the restroom. I pulled the glass out of my hair. I washed the blood off my face. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. When I came back out and walked to the parking lot, there were 10 police cars outside the factory, lights flashing, armed officers everywhere. My sister had already told me which officer to speak to. She'd given me his name, his full name, his badge number, everything. She told me not to talk to anyone else until I confirmed it was him. I found him, confirmed his identity. He took my statement. Everything seemed to go smoothly. For about an hour, I felt safe. Then the detective started telling me what they'd found. Security cameras from nearby businesses had captured the whole thing. There weren't 2 vehicles, there were 3, the Cherokee, the Explorer, and a third SUV that had been trailing behind, waiting to block off the other end of the street once they had me. 12 men total, not 4. 12. It was a coordinated operation, military style. They'd been tracking me for weeks. They knew my route, they knew my schedule, they knew which car I'd be driving that day. The detective told me the cartel behind it was one of the most powerful in Mexico. He told me I was lucky to be alive. 3 months later, that same detective was killed, shot 14 times outside his home. I moved into my sister's house. The day after the attack, it has armed guards at every entrance, 24-hour security. I don't go anywhere without bodyguards now. 2 of them, minimum, sometimes 3. I lost my job. The factory didn't want the liability. They were polite about it, but the message was clear. Having me there put everyone else at risk. I lost most of my friends. People stopped answering my calls, stopped inviting me to things. I don't blame them. Who wants to hang out with someone who has a target on their back? Who wants to be in the car when the next black SUV pulls up? I work for the government now. My sister got me the job. It's low profile, data entry, paperwork. It doesn't pay much, but it doesn't attract attention, and that's the point. I've looked into leaving the country, Canada, the US, somewhere, anywhere, but I don't have the money, and I'm a college dropout with no special skills. No country is going to take me, so I stay here. I live with my sister. I have people protecting me and my family 24 hours a day. The men who tried to kidnap me are still out there. No arrests, no leads. The investigation is ongoing, but I don't think it's going anywhere. The detective who was working on it is dead. No one wants to touch it now. I've lost a lot of weight. Stress, mostly. I don't sleep well. I spend more time with my nephews. I figure if I'm going to be stuck in this house, I might as well be present for them. I'm in a relationship now. Somehow she knows the situation. She knows what being with me means, and she still chose to stay. I don't know why, but I'm grateful. I'm always on edge, always looking over my shoulder, always listening for the sound of tires screeching, for footsteps behind me, for engines idling outside. Because on a Tuesday morning at 5:30 a.m., 12 men with guns and a baseball bat decided I was worth taking. And the only reason I'm telling you this story is because I made a choice in about 2 seconds that I didn't have time to think through. I drove through them, I smashed between two vehicles, I ran one of them over, and I kept going. I got lucky. The crash didn't disable the SUV. They stopped chasing me. The police actually showed up. My sister had the power to protect me. Most people don't get that lucky. Most people get in the SUV and they don't come back. Los Cabos, family vacation, Westin Resort. My parents, my older brother and his wife, my younger sister, we'd all go to dinner together, come back around 9:30, and everyone would head to bed. I'm 25. I wasn't going to bed at 9:30. My brother was working remotely the whole trip, so he wouldn't go out. I went alone. There was a bar around the corner from the hotel. Nothing fancy. I went there the first night, met some locals, started hanging out. The second night, I went back and met this guy, Luke, from San Diego, 29. He was there for a wedding. We hit it off. Same sense of humor, same taste in beer. We started meeting up every night after my family went to sleep. Third night of the trip, Luke texted me asking if I wanted to meet him and his friends downtown. I wanted to. But we had a family dinner that ran late and I ended up just staying in. The next night, I met him at this massive Airbnb mansion his group had rented. The kind of place with too many bedrooms and a pool that looks like it belongs in a music video. Luke looked exhausted. He said, "Dude, it's good you didn't come out last night." And then he told me what happened. His buddy, let's call him Jake, was drunk. They were bar hopping downtown. At some point, Jake stepped outside to take a piss in an alley. A guy approached him, Mexican, mid-30s, casual clothes. He held out a key. There was a bump of cocaine on it. Jake, without thinking, because he was drunk and stupid, snorted it. The guy smiled and said, $80. Jake laughed, said no, told him to fuck off. The guy didn't leave. He said, "You just stole from me." Jake got aggressive, started yelling, told him he didn't owe him anything, told him to get lost. The guy pulled out his phone and made a call. 10 minutes later, there were 5 of them following Jake and Luke's group from bar to bar, taking pictures of them, pictures of their faces, pictures of the back of their heads, pictures of Jake specifically. One of them walked up to Luke and said, "Your friend stole from us. He needs to pay $80 or we call our boss." Luke tried to calm Jake down, told him to just pay it, and they'd all leave. Jake refused, said it was bullshit, said he didn't owe them anything. They kept following for 3 hours, bar to bar, always 10 steps behind, always taking pictures. At one point, One of them lifted his shirt. There was a 9mm pistol tucked in his waistband. He said, "This is cartel business now. Your friend stole from us. If someone doesn't pay, this becomes a problem for him." Luke finally pulled the guy aside. He said, "Look, I'll pay." "How much?" The guy said, $160 US for wasting our time. Luke took him to an ATM, pulled out $160 cash, handed it over. The guy gave him an empty baggie, the kind you'd put coke in, smiled and said, "You're smart, your friend isn't." Then they left. Luke went back to Jake and told him what he'd done, that he'd paid them off, that they could finally relax. Jake didn't thank him. He said Luke shouldn't have gotten involved, that he'd made it worse, that it wasn't his problem. Luke said, "I just paid $160 to keep you from getting killed." Jake shrugged, didn't offer him $1, didn't apologize, didn't even acknowledge it. 2 hours later, Luke met a girl at another bar. They were talking, flirting. She leaned in close. He thought she was going for a kiss. She grabbed the gold chain around his neck and ripped it off. $200. Gone. She disappeared into the crowd before he even processed what happened. Luke told me all of this sitting by the pool at the mansion. He looked like he hadn't slept. He said, "Oh, I just wanted to have a good time, man. That's it." I told him I was glad I'd missed that night. He laughed and said, "Yeah, me too." Here's the thing about Los Cabos, about Cabo San Lucas, about any tourist town in Mexico. The cartel doesn't need to kidnap you. They don't need to put a gun to your head and drag you into an SUV. They have a better system. They give you something for free, a bump, a drink, a sample, and the second you take it, you owe them. You owe them money. You owe them compliance. You owe them whatever they decide you owe them. And if you don't pay, they follow you. They take pictures. They show you the gun. They make it very clear that this can go one of two ways. Most people pay. Jake got lucky. Luke paid for him. But Jake walked away thinking he'd won, thinking he'd stood his ground, thinking he was tough. He has no idea how close he came. Because here's what Luke didn't tell Jake, but told me later. When the guy lifted his shirt to show the gun, he also said something else. He said, "We know where you're staying. We know what car you rented. We know you're leaving Sunday. If you don't pay, you won't make your flight." Luke believed him, so he paid. I grew up 20 minutes from the Mexican border. The city on the other side is called Reynosa. And before 2010, before things got as bad as they are now, crossing into Mexico wasn't a big deal. You'd go for shopping, for food. To see family, it was normal. My family went all the time. My mom has relatives there now, cousins, aunts, the kind of extended family that turns a quick visit into an all-day event. We'd arrive at 10 in the morning and leave around midnight. That's just how it was. Mexican stock, 4 hours. You accept it or you don't go. This happened in the summer of 2009. I was 16. We'd spend the day visiting family, doing some shopping. Around 11:30 at night, my mom got a call. One of our younger cousins had just gotten home. We'd missed her earlier. My mom wanted to see her before we left, so we went back. We stayed longer than we should have. By 2 in the morning, I was done. Exhausted, frustrated. I grabbed my younger brother and 2 sisters, led them out to the car, turned on the AC, locked the doors. We all passed out almost immediately. I don't know how long I was asleep, but I woke up to blinding light. It filled the entire car. I couldn't see anything. I tried to shield my eyes, tried to orient myself, and through the glare, I saw my mom standing directly in front of our car. My cousin was beside her. Both of them had expressions I'd never seen before. I finally turned around to see where the light was coming from. A massive black Ford F-250. Lifted. Window tint so dark you couldn't see inside. High beams on, pointed directly at us. I turned back to my mom. She had tears running down her face. She wasn't saying anything, just standing there, staring at the truck like she was pleading with it. The truck started flickering its high beams. On, off, flooding our car with light, then plunging it back into darkness. That's when I understood. The Zetas, the cartel that controlled Reynosa, kidnappings, murders, blacked out trucks, this was their signature. The engine revved, loud, aggressive, like it was taunting her, daring her to move. I reached for the door handle. I was going to get out. I was going to go to my mom. She saw me. She mouthed 2 words. Stay put. I stayed. The truck revved again. Louder. My mom didn't move. She just stood there, frozen, crying, staring at the truck, and then she ran. She sprinted for the driver's door. The second she moved, I unlocked the car. Behind me, I heard the truck shift into gear. My mom ripped the door open and threw herself inside. She floored the gas pedal before the door was even closed. We shot forward down the unpaved road, the truck immediately behind us. I looked at her. Tears were pouring down her face. She was crying out loud, praying, begging God to help us. As we hit speeds over 80 miles per hour through a residential neighborhood. The road was unpaved, uneven. We were bouncing. My siblings were awake now, confused, terrified. My mom told me to buckle up. I turned around. The truck was right behind us, close. The windows were rolled down. I could see men leaning out. One of them was holding something up. A phone, maybe a camera, recording us, taking photos of the license plate. My mom drove like I'd never seen her drive before. She swerved around other cars, ran a stop sign, nearly wrecked twice. But she didn't stop. She didn't slow down. She just kept going. 5 miles from the US checkpoint, the truck stopped following us. We could breathe again. My mom broke down, fully. She was sobbing, shaking, still driving, but barely holding it together. My brother and sisters were crying in the back. I just sat there, staring at the road ahead, trying to process what had just happened. We hit a red light about a mile from the border. 2 more blacked-out trucks pulled up, one on the left, one on the right. I looked up at the truck on my right. A man, mid-20s, maybe younger, was smiling at me through the window. He started flickering his lights, the same way the first truck had. My mom didn't wait for the light to turn green. She floored it, ran the red, drove straight through until we crossed into US soil. We reported everything to the Border Patrol. They took statements from all of us. They wrote it down. They said they'd pass it along, but there was nothing they could do. We didn't go back to Mexico until 2014. One of my aunts passed away. We had no choice. We still go back sometimes. Funerals, family emergencies. But it's different now. Helicopters patrol so low you can see the officers' fingers on the triggers of the mounted guns. Convoys of military trucks on every highway. Checkpoints everywhere. And every time we cross, I think about that night. I think about my mom standing in front of that truck, tears streaming down her face, knowing that if she moved wrong or said the wrong thing, we were all dead. I think about the men in the windows, the ones who were recording, the ones who had our license plate, our faces, everything. I think about the fact that we made it across the border, and I think about all the people who didn't. Because in Reynosa, in the summer of 2009, on a dirt road at 2 a.m, my mother made a choice. She ran. She drove. She didn't stop. And that's the only reason I'm here to tell you this. I grew up normal, American kid, suburbs, sports, video games, the whole thing. My mom was Mexican, so her parents were from southern Mexico. My dad was white, but I looked Mexican. Dark skin, black hair. So that's how people treated me, and by high school, I fit in with the other Mexican-American kids. My Spanish was decent, good enough. That's how I met Jose. Jose transferred in from Culiacan, Sinaloa. Seemed like a regular kid at first, quiet, kept his head down, but then I noticed the music. Narco corridos, songs about Sinaloa cartel hitmen. He listened to them constantly. His Instagram was full of cartel glorification, golden AKs, armored trucks, mansion parties. I asked him about it one day. He shrugged, said his uncles were involved, high-ranking members. He wasn't in the life yet. His mom had sent him north to live with his only non-cartel uncle. But Jose talked about joining like other kids talked about college, like it was his destiny. I wasn't interested. Honestly, it freaked me out. Then my parents died. Car crash, rainy night, both gone. My grandparents had already passed. My aunts and uncles had their own families to take care of. The only person who could take me and my younger brother was my aunt. She was young. She was sick, lupus. She tried, but she couldn't work. I had to support us. Jose offered to help. He knew people. We started small, running errands, facilitating deals, distribution work in the US. Nothing violent, just logistics. It went fine for 6 months. Then we got kidnapped. We were waiting on a sale, me, Jose, and another guy named Nacho. A black truck pulled up. 4 men got out, guns drawn. They grabbed us, zip-tied our hands, threw us in the back. They took us to a warehouse. Inside there were more men, young, plenty of street clothes. And then the boss walked in, suit and tie, looked like a businessman. He was followed by another man in a ski mask wearing a clear plastic rain jacket over his clothes. We were on our knees, on a plastic sheet. I understood immediately we were about to be executed. The man in the rain jacket picked up a baseball bat and walked over to Nacho. What happened next took about a minute. When it was over, Nacho wasn't recognizable. The man walked toward me. I begged. I told them I didn't know anything. Yeah, do whatever they wanted. He raised the bat. Then someone came running in, yelling in Spanish. The boss walked over. Yeah, they talked. The man lowered the bat. The boss turned to us. You two got lucky. Things were cleared. They explained that Nacho had been working with the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, setting up operations. They thought we were helping him. But Jose's uncle, one of the high-ranking Sinaloa members, had vouched for us. We walked out alive. The man in the suit who'd been running our operation, he wasn't as lucky. When Jose's uncle found out how close we came to dying, that man ended up dead in a drainage ditch a week later. After that, we proved ourselves. We moved up, got relocated to Sinaloa to work directly under Jose's uncles. My brother went to college. I cut contact with him for his safety. My aunt died 6 months later. Even with the money I was sending for chemo, the cancer was too aggressive. After that, it wasn't about family anymore. It was about the life, the money, the parties, the respect. Jose's uncle had corridors written about us, laid bands at his mansion. We had everything. Jose stayed single, said relationships were a weakness, something to lose. I didn't listen. I met someone, fell in love, dated her for a year. The Jalisco cartel kidnapped her. I sent everyone I had to find her, burned through every contact, offered money, made threats. And one morning I woke up to a photo from a restricted number. If you've seen cartel execution videos, you know what she looked like. Something broke in me after that. I got violent, reckless, told myself it was revenge, but really I just had nothing left. That's when I started noticing the shrines. Santa Muerte, Holy Death, a skeletal figure in a hooded cloak. A lot of the men prayed to her, left offerings, tequila, cigarettes, money, asked her for protection, for luck, to make them bulletproof. Some prayed to other saints, Jesus Malverde, San Judas. Some even prayed to the devil himself, all in exchange for their souls. I thought it was superstition, but the deeper I got, the more I saw things I couldn't explain. Men walking away from shootouts without a scratch. Convoys avoiding ambushes like someone warned them. Jose believed. He prayed to her every night. His downfall came from his violence. He killed a fellow soldier who'd been meeting with the police chief to negotiate a buyout. The chief had federal connections. Suddenly, it wasn't just local police after us. It was the military. The leadership decided Jose was too hot. His own uncle put a hit on him. Jose only survived because he was hungover at a party and didn't go home that night. The hit squad waited at his house for 6 hours before giving up. I found out. I warned him. He ran. I knew they'd find out. I tipped him off. So I left too, took all the money I'd saved, got out. But something felt unfinished. So I did the dumbest thing I've ever done. I drove out to the Santa Muerte altar, the big one. In the hills, outside the city, remote. Just a shrine on the side of a dirt road. I stood in front of it, stared at the skeletal figure draped in black, all the offerings at her feet, candles, flowers, bottles of tequila, and I destroyed it. I kicked over the statue, smashed the offerings, poured gasoline on the shrine, and lit it on fire. I don't know why I did it. Anger, spite, a final fuck you to the life I was leaving behind. I snuck back across the border that night, disappeared into the US, went on the run. Haven't heard from Jose since. But 3 days ago, I started seeing her, the shadow, in doorways, in reflections, in the corner of my vision. I hear whispers when I'm alone. I will take your soul for revenge. Her voice, cold, furious. I'm not superstitious. I wasn't raised religious. I don't believe in ghosts or demons or saints, but I believe now because she's standing behind me right now. I can feel her. The temperature in the room has dropped. My breath is fogging. And outside, 5 black SUVs just pulled into the driveway. Headlights cutting through the snow. I can hear car doors opening, boots on gravel. I have the painkillers ready. I can take them now. It's be gone before they break down the door. But I don't think it matters because the shadow behind me just moved and I can feel her hands on my shoulders, cold, skeletal, real. She's here to collect. And I know now, I've always known that you don't deface a saint and walk away. You don't mock death and expect to keep breathing. I joined the Sinaloa cartel when I was 16 years old. I rose through the ranks. I got rich. I got violent. I lost the only person I ever loved. And when I left, I thought I could walk away clean. But nothing in this life is clean. And death always collects. The door just splintered open downstairs. I can hear them coming up the stairs. But she's faster. I was caught 3 times. DEA, Border Patrol, State Police. I'm not in prison. Never spent a day in jail for any of it. How? Deny everything. And let me back up. 6 months. That's how long I was an active drug mule, mostly operated within the US, but occasionally I'd run across the border from Mexico. After those 6 months, I moved up. I stopped being the mule and started recruiting them. Safer that way. I'd rather hire someone else, give them a percentage, and stay off the DEA's radar. But those first 6 months, that was me behind the wheel. I got into it because I was broke, living at home, minimum wage job, paying too much for a car I couldn't afford. 2014 model, $25,000, way over my head. I had a hunger for money and power. So I found a recruiter, someone who could get me in. The first job paid $3,000 for 2 days of driving. Drive from point A to point B. Don't stop except for gas and energy drinks. Wait in a hotel in the middle of nowhere while they unload the product. Drive home. Get paid. I wasn't nervous. If anything, I was excited. My recruiter called me every hour to check in. My best friend, the girl I'd known since high school, it would text me every few hours to make sure I was okay. The drive was exhausting. When I finally got to the hotel, I had to wait 10 hours for them to unload the car. There was nothing to do. No bars, no restaurants, just a motel in the middle of nowhere in a state I'd never been to. When they were done, I drove straight home, 14 hours back, turned in the car, got paid $3,000 cash. I was hooked. I kept doing it because of her, my best friend. One afternoon, I was at a bar on my day off. I felt this unbearable pain in my stomach. I don't know why, but my first instinct was to call her. She was crying, not just upset, devastated. Something had happened. I won't get into what. But hearing her like that hurt more than anything I'd ever felt. I decided right then that I'd keep smuggling. I'd give her money, help her out. Because of me, she was able to put a down payment on a car. That's why I kept going. But it wasn't just about driving anymore. I had buyers, clients, powerful people who would buy large amounts frequently. I became the middleman between the cartel and these clients. My very first sale, I made $1,000 just for introducing 2 parties. $50,000 worth of product moved, and all I did was make a phone call. After that, the cartel told me to stop smuggling. They said I was too valuable as a connector. But I kept doing it anyway. I liked the adrenaline. That's how I got caught the first time. The job was a convoy. 4 cars total. 1 lead car to speed ahead and draw any cops away from me. Me in the second car with the product. A buyer in the third car. My bosses in the fourth. We were moving 2 bricks of cocaine up north for a client who'd already bought from me before. This was delicate. High stakes. 10 hours into the drive, the 2 cars behind me started losing distance. I called them. They were 2 hours behind. I talked to the lead car. We decided to keep going. 8 hours later, I pulled into a gas station and ran into the lead car by coincidence. He told me the backup cars were now 4 hours behind. He wanted to stop and wait at a restaurant. I said no, we needed to keep moving. He agreed. We finally arrived at our destination around 10 p.m. There were 2 hotels right next to each other. My buyer wanted me to stay at the same hotel as him. Safety in numbers, I guess. But I didn't trust him. So I got a room at the other hotel across the street. I bought a case of beer, went to my room, and waited for my boss to arrive. He showed up around 3 in the morning. And the next morning, around 11, my boss told me he was going to meet his clients. He had other buyers for the rest of the product. He told me to stay in the room with the car and wait for his call. An hour passed, no call. I went down to the restaurant in the hotel lobby to grab food. One of my clients met me there. We talked business for 30 minutes. Then I went back upstairs. I put my keycard in the door. It didn't work. No big deal. I walked down to the front desk to get a new one. When I walked into the lobby, I saw 2 men. One was a police officer in uniform. The other was a DEA agent, Kevlar vest. DEA in gold letters on the back. They both turned and looked at me. I kept my face neutral. Walked to the front desk, got a new key card, walked out. My heart was pounding, but I didn't show it. I went back upstairs and looked out the window. Across the street, I saw 2 black SUVs parked in tactical positions, ready to move if something went down. I didn't go into my room. Walked back downstairs and started walking aimlessly through the parking lot, just to see if anyone would follow me. Sure enough, a civilian car started tailing me. I walked toward a business across the street. Right before I got to the door, the car pulled up. The same DA agent from the lobby stepped out. He said, what's your name, kid? I said, I don't have to answer that. He said, what kind of car are you driving? Is it here? I said, I'm not answering that. He got frustrated. His partner got out of the car and told me to put my hands behind my head. The partner said, look, kid, we're investigating a car break-in. The suspect fits your profile. I said, they called the DEA for a break-in? The first agent said, we're not DEA, we're city police. I looked at them both and said, those 2 unmarked SUVs over there are yours. Your firearm is in your waistband, not in a holster. You're driving a civilian car. Police don't operate that way. Silence. The second agent said, what kind of training do you have? I said, I was a cop. I wasn't, but it worked. They took my ID, told me to stay put, said they were running me for warrants. 10 minutes later, they handed my ID back and let me go. I took a bus home, didn't tell anyone what happened for 3 days. When I finally did, the cartel started pointing fingers. They thought I was an undercover DEA agent. They thought someone had flipped. It was later revealed that my boss's ex-girlfriend had ratted us out. My boss disappeared that day. We tried finding him in jail, databases, prison records, nothing. To this day, we don't know what happened to him. My theory, the meeting with his clients was a setup. The DA thought he had the coke in his car. When they realized he didn't, they scrambled back to the hotel to salvage the operation. They towed the car. My buyers went into hiding. The DEA never came after me again. I got caught 2 more times after that. Once by Border Patrol, once by state police. Both times I denied everything. Both times I walked. But here's the thing about walking away. You don't really walk away because eventually it catches up. I kept recruiting mules, kept making money, kept telling myself I was too smart to get caught again. But in 2021, I went to prison, not for the smuggling, not for the DEA incident, for something else, something smaller, something I thought didn't matter. I served 2 years. I'm out now. I work a normal job. I don't talk to anyone from that life anymore. My best friend, the one I did all of this for, we don't speak. She moved on. So did I. But I think about it sometimes. The hotel lobby, the DEA agent turning around. The moment I knew I was either walking out or going to prison for the rest of my life, I got lucky 3 times. Most people don't get lucky once. I'm 25 years old, and yesterday a man I've hated for 10 years handed me a gun and taught me how to shoot it in case the cartel shows up at my door. I have a 5-year-old son. I'm recovering from 2 back-to-back surgeries, and I'm sleeping in my kid's bed in an apartment I share with my ex-husband because I have nowhere else to go. Let me explain how I got here. My ex-husband and I have been separated for over a year now. We tried to make it work twice. Both times failed because he has a severe cocaine addiction that he was hiding from me and paying for with our rent money. The months before I finally left were hell. He was emotionally and mentally abusive, gaslighting me constantly, tearing me down, using my mental health issues against me whenever I tried to confront him about anything. So I moved out. I went to stay with my best friend and her family. It was good for a while, stable, safe. But then she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and we all agreed it was best if I found somewhere else to live so she could focus on treatment without worrying about hosting me and my son. Problem was, I had nowhere else to go. My family isn't an option. I don't make enough money to afford my own place. So I ended up back at the apartment, back with my ex, sleeping in my son's twin bed because I refuse to share a room with him. It's temporary. That's what I keep telling myself. But I'm not the only person who moved in during the separation. About a year ago, my ex-husband's best friend moved into the second bedroom to help with rent. Let's call him Mike. I have hated Mike for the entire 10 years I've known him. He's an addict, not a recovering addict, not someone trying to get better. Just an addict who makes terrible decisions constantly and takes zero accountability for how those decisions affect everyone around him. This is the same guy who convinced my ex to do hallucinogens with him one night when I was out of town, and my ex was supposed to be watching our son. They took something they thought was one thing, and it turned out to be something else entirely. It was bad, really bad. My ex told me later he genuinely thought he was going to die that night while our 3-year-old was asleep in the next room. I only found out because I had a gut feeling and went through my ex's phone. He texted like 5 different people about it, about how scared he was, about how fucked up Mike had gotten them both. When I confronted him, he minimized it, said it wasn't a big deal. Mike never even apologized. So that's Mike. Yeah, that's the person living in the second bedroom of this apartment with me and my son. Yesterday I was in the kitchen making dinner for my 5-year-old. Mac and cheese, nothing fancy. Mike called me into his room. He shut the door behind me, and I immediately felt my stomach drop because I knew whatever he was about to say wasn't good. He pulled a gun out of his nightstand, a handgun. I don't know what kind. I don't know anything about guns. I've never touched one in my entire life. He said, if anyone knocks on that door, you need to cock this and carry it before you answer. Then he showed me how to load it, how to hold it, how to aim, how to shoot. He was talking fast, like he was running out of time, like this was urgent. And then he said, I've been working as a drug mule for a cartel for a long time. I'm on probation right now for drug charges, so I'm too hot to keep doing runs. My bosses aren't happy about it. They know this address. They know the apartment number. If I don't start complying again, they said they'll come here to find me. I just stood there staring at him. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know if I'd heard him correctly. He kept going. He said, if you shoot someone, drag the body inside the apartment and call me first. Don't call the police until you've called me. I need to know what happened so I can handle it. That's when I started crying. Not like tearing up, full on sobbing. I couldn't breathe. I just kept thinking about my son in the other room eating mac and cheese and watching cartoons, and he has no idea that his mom is standing in a bedroom learning how to kill someone. Mike looked uncomfortable. He said something like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't want to scare you, but you need to know." And then he just left the room. I stood there for a minute trying to pull myself together. Then I called my ex-husband. He was at work. I told him what Mike had just told me. Now, he freaked out. He said I needed to take our son and leave. He said we needed to evacuate immediately. He said he'd deal with Mike. So today I'm driving. I'm not saying where, but it's far. My son and I are staying with family indefinitely until this either blows over or gets resolved somehow. I packed everything important. Our clothes, documents, my son's favorite toys. I left almost nothing behind. And here's the part that makes me so fucking angry. None of this would be happening if my ex-husband hadn't chosen his addiction and his shitty friend over his family. If he'd just stayed sober. If he'd just been the person I thought I married. If he just told Mike to get the fuck out of our lives years ago instead of enabling him and covering for him and doing drugs with him while our son was in the house. But he didn't. He chose cocaine. He chose Mike. And now me and my 5-year-old, they are running from the cartel because of a decision I had nothing to do with. Mike is supposedly moving out tomorrow. He texted my ex and said he feels really bad about everything. My ex refuses to leave the apartment. He says he'll be fine. He says Mike's exaggerating and nothing's actually going to happen. I hope he's right. But I'm not taking that chance. Because yesterday I was making mac and cheese for my kid, and a man handed me a gun and told me the cartel knows where I sleep, and that's not something you just ignore. So I'm gone. My son is safe, and I don't know when or if we're coming back.